$7 trillion is about to flood into AI, and almost nobody is paying attention to where the money is actually going. Most investors think they understand AI. They are watching headlines, chasing stocks, and refreshing charts. But many are looking in the same place, and also missing the part of the industry that's quietly exploding behind the scenes. Even Bill Gates has called AI the biggest technological shift of his lifetime. What he didn't say is where the real build-out is happening, or why the biggest opportunity isn't where most people think it is. According to McKinsey & Company, this isn't just growth, it's a full-scale infrastructure boom. Data center investment alone is expected to surge at double-digit rates for years. This is the largest physical build-out since the railroad era, and it's happening completely behind the headlines. Here is the part most people still don't understand. AI isn't just software, it's not just code, and it's not just the cloud. It's steel, it's power, it's cooling, it's infrastructure on a scale the world has never seen. The investors who understand that are positioning before the rest of the market catches on. Your time is valuable, so let's get right into it. In a world where everyone's focused on the latest headlines and panic trades around every dip, the real winners will always be the investors who are ready ahead of time. The ones who trust facts over emotions and take the time to understand the science behind the stocks. I want to make the best use of your time with this video. And to do that, we have to focus on the long-term signals that actually matter for investors. Of course, everyone is watching NVIDIA's stock price, but almost nobody pays attention to the buildings that are going up behind it. And that's where the real story begins. People are asking where all of these NVIDIA GPUs are actually going. And the answer is not a mystery. They're all being packed into these massive data centers that are built to run AI models around the clock. Data centers aren't these little server rooms. These buildings stretch the size of football fields, and some use more electricity in a year than the entire state of Alaska. And inside, you've got hundreds of millions, possibly even billions of dollars worth of hardware that has to stay powered, cooled, and connected every second of the day, or the whole system just falls apart. Goldman Sachs expects data center power demand to jump 165% by 2030. And if power demand grows that fast, something has to build and fuel the grid behind it. AI cannot run without massive, stable electricity. For this video, I'm going to be breaking out where the money is flowing, several companies that are tied to each of those areas, and how I'm going to be investing broadly into each tier. But first, here's why the build-out is hitting overdrive right now. People think that AI lives in the cloud, but every single prompt runs on physical hardware that's within these facilities. Elon Musk's Colossus cluster in Memphis uses around 100,000 NVIDIA H1 GPUs for training. Meta is building the same kind of scale for Llama. At this point, these facilities need their own power substations just to stay online. NVIDIA's newest AI chips pull up to 3 times more power than the last generation. And all of that energy turns into heat really fast. That's why these facilities need industrial-grade liquid cooling systems, dedicated power infrastructure, backup generators, battery banks, and of course, networking. Goldman Sachs says that the U.S. data center construction has tripled in the last 3 years, and it's still accelerating. Once again, AI isn't just about cloud-based software. It includes steel, concrete, electricity, and cooling. And that's where the real money is flowing right now. Here is a closer look at McKinsey's $7 trillion buckets, with 60% going to compute, the servers, GPUs, chips, memory, and of course, storage. These are basically the machines that are doing all the work. The balance of 40% is going to the facilities. These are the buildings, the power systems, the cooling, and the real estate. It's the shell that keeps the whole thing alive. That's roughly about $4.2 trillion flowing into hardware and cloud platforms, and another $2.8 trillion into power, cooling, and the physical footprint that's behind it. Here's why this split matters for investors. The two layers behave nothing alike. They have different growth, They have different risk and they have different winners. The compute layer is the high-growth side and includes AI chips, cloud platforms, and server manufacturers. These are companies that can grow 20 to 30 to 50+% a year because AI demand is not slowing down. But it is a faster game. Technology moves quickly, and one new chip design can reshuffle the entire market share simply overnight. The facilities layer, then, is steadier. This is the power systems, cooling equipment, and data center real estate. Think more like 10 to 15% annual growth. It's not flashy, but it is essential. And this side wins no matter which chip company comes out on top. Think of it this way. The compute layer is betting on who's going to win the AI race. The facilities layer is betting that the race happens at all. And someone, of course, has to build the track to run the race on. McKinsey says that 60% of the money is going to be going into compute and 40% into the facilities. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to invest in the same 60-40 split. If you are like me and your goal is maximum upside, then I would lean heavier into compute because that's where the fastest growth lives today. That, and it has long-term demand. Meaning once a data center is built, the construction companies don't really make any more money from it. When I look at the data, McKinsey's 60-40 split makes a lot of sense from a high level. Compute on one side, facilities on the other. But of course, there's a third group that's sitting above both layers, and they break every rule within this model. And of course, these are the hyperscalers. Think Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. These companies don't just buy data center capacity. They're actually building it in entire regions at a time. They're negotiating multi-gigawatt power deals before the rest of the market even knows that the demand is coming. In fact, they're even designing their own chips. Amazon's Trainium and Graviton, Google's TPUs, Microsoft's Maya. They're engineering silicon specifically for their own AI workloads, so they're not solely dependent on anyone else. And even now, they're inventing their own cooling system. Recently, Amazon rolled out its own in-house liquid cooling system because the traditional suppliers are backlogged for years, and they weren't willing to wait. They built their own system so they could deploy their high-density GPU racks right now, not in 2027. They're also running the clouds, where every enterprise AI workload lands today. This is AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. And of course, they're not alone. Oracle is accelerating with their AI HPC leasing. Alibaba and Tencent run massive AI regions across Asia. And IBM is carving out their own niche within the regulated industry. But once again, those big three still sit in a category all their own. They're the only players that are touching every layer of the stack. And that's why hyperscalers, in my mind, get their own bucket. If you are finding this video valuable, consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. That really helps me out, and it lets me know to make more content like this. Let's go ahead and jump into the compute layer, because this is where most of the growth is happening. And everything begins with the chips, where NVIDIA is still way out in front of everybody else. But AMD has real momentum with their MI300, and Broadcom and Marvell are showing up inside almost every major AI system. And Intel is still there pushing hard to get back into the conversation. And the thing that most people overlook is memory. GPU demand is huge, and memory demand is exploding right alongside of it. This translates into Micron, Samsung, and SK Hynix, which are all sold out in high-bandwidth memory for years out. Once again, these systems can't run without massive amounts of memory. Then, we've got the companies that are turning all that silicon into actual racks. Supermicro has been scaling almost faster than anyone else in this area. Then you have Dell and HPE, which anchor the enterprise market. Then there's Lenovo, which is huge across Asia and has a big share of global server shipments. There's a growing group of GPU cloud providers trying to keep up with all that demand. Think Applied Digital, Okami, DigitalOcean, Iron. They're all building out dedicated AI compute as fast as they can get hardware delivered. and then they're leasing it out to those big players, also as quickly as they can. And of course, behind all of this is the semiconductor supply chain. Taiwan Semiconductor manufactures almost every advanced AI chip that's out there. ASML is the choke point for the tools that everyone needs in creating these chips. Lam Research, KLA, Applied Materials, they handle the rest of the equipment that makes these high-end chips even possible. Then once that hardware hits the racks, the networking becomes critical. Arista leads the cloud-scale switching. Cisco drives a lot of that enterprise traffic. And companies like Ciena, Lumenum, and Coherent move data across long distances between buildings, regions, and entire countries. This whole layer is moving extremely fast. It's where most of the revenue growth is happening today, and it's the part of the stack that investors look at when they're aiming for a lot of that upside. Now, let's go ahead and move into the facilities layer. This is the part of the system that you never really see, but nothing works without it. We'll start with power and cooling, because that's where most of the physical build-out is happening, and where Verivis is tied directly to the rise in AI data centers. Eaton and Schneider Electric handle the electrical distribution and the switchgear. Then Johnson Controls, Trane and Daikin manage the thermal side. And Modine and Invent are growing really fast too as more racks shift to high-density cooling. Then, of course, you have the grid itself, where AI is pushing power demand higher than the grid was ever designed for. So companies like Siemens, ABB, and Quant Services are all seeing real tailwinds, where you have Bloom Energy and Cummins helping with on-site generation and backup power when facilities need more stability than the grid could ever provide. From there, it's the companies that actually own the buildings. Equinix, Digital Realty, and Iron Mountain build and lease these types of shells. They provide the space, the interconnects, and the reliability that lets everyone else plug in and scale. And then you have the fiber optical side, the long-haul links between all these data centers. Infinera is a company that handles long-distance optical systems. Then you have Fujitsu and ZTE, which are major suppliers in Asia. And these companies move the data between campuses, regions, and entire countries. Finally, you have the software layer that keeps the whole environment stable. Think VMware, IBM, Nanix, and ServiceNow. They handle the orchestration, virtualization, and the automation, the stuff that keeps workloads balanced and the hardware running efficiently. But unfortunately, this layer doesn't move quite as fast as compute. But it does scale with every new facility, every new rack, and every new watt that gets pulled onto the grid. And the best part is, it's steady, and it benefits no matter which chipset or cloud platform is winning. So, now that we've laid out all the layers, the hyperscalers, the compute names, and the facilities, let's talk about how I actually invest in this. Because knowing the players is only step one. It isn't the same as knowing where to put the money to work the hardest. Before I break anything out, here's the simple truth. Not every part of this ecosystem grows at the same speed. Like I keep saying, compute keeps moving the fastest. Facilities move a little bit slower, but they are very consistent. And hyperscalers sit right in the middle. They're big, they're steady, and they are essential. For me, the goal is never just to own everything equally. My goal is to match the growth, the risk, and the timing with what the data is telling us today. And I think that most of us can agree that the data is fairly clear. The money that's flowing into AI and data centers is not being split out evenly. Most of the upside is landing in compute, and most of the stability is coming from facilities. And the hyperscalers, well, they capture pieces on both sides without a lot of volatility. I have probably mentioned a lot of stocks that you're unfamiliar with, and I'll dive into those in future videos. But for now, here's how I'd put money to work across the data center stack today, starting with 45% going straight into compute. This is the fastest growing part of data centers. Think chips, memory, servers, networking, and the demand is still running really hot. Then 30% would go into hyperscalers. Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. They're building the data centers, they're filling them, and they're running the cloud platforms that sit on top. And they'll generate revenue for the long term. The last 25% would go into facilities, power systems, cooling, electrical gear, real estate. These companies get paid every time a new data center flips the lights on, regardless of what chips are inside. What does that look like in 5 years, using what I think is realistic growth rates for each of these groups? Compute would conservatively be growing in the low 20% range, hyperscalers around 12 to 13%, and facilities around 8 to 10%. A simple $1,000 investment today would then grow into roughly $2,000 to $2,350. There's really no guessing. It's just clean exposure across the parts of the data centers that are doing the real work. I always try to give some added information to those of you that prefer. By 2030, analysts expect global data center power capacity to jump from 81 gigawatt to 220 gigawatt because AI needs far more horsepower than the grid was ever built to deliver. And that's the real investment story. The companies building the compute engines and the companies building the backbone that's right behind them. They're all stepping into a $7 trillion wave that's already in motion. In my opinion, the money isn't in the hype. It's in the hardware, the power, and the concrete that makes AI even possible. And that's where the next 5 years of returns get decided. But if you believe they're all stepping into a $7 trillion wave that's already in motion, it makes it a great way to get rich without getting lucky. And if you want to see what else I'm buying to get rich without getting lucky, consider checking out my next video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this is the X-Invest Hunter. My name is Martin, reminding you that the best investment you can make is in you, and that you only need to be right one time to change your life.